Bonjour, welcome to our third lesson from home. We are still in chapter 2, Qu'est-ce que tu aimes faire? And today we're going to learn a couple more things. Let's go to our overview. In this lesson, we will review ER verb conjugation pattern, and we're also going to learn about irregular plurals. For ER verbs, we've already kind of gone through it in class, so it shouldn't be anything unfamiliar. It's really just a review. So let's go straight to it. ER verbs. Okay, so one thing that I didn't tell you in class, I did tell you that all ER verbs pretty much conjugate themselves the same way. But I didn't tell you that ER verbs are one of three French verb groups. The other two being IR and RE. But basically, most of the verbs are ER verbs. And as you know already, they all conjugate the same way. They all have the same ending from je all the way to il, elle plural. There are a couple exceptions here and there, of course, but most of your ER verbs are very, very predictable. All you have to do is conjugate, when you want to conjugate your ER verb, is to drop the ER ending, which is right here. This right here is your ER ending. You drop that, and all you have to do is add the matching ending depending on the subject pronoun. Okay? And I'll show you an example of a verb that we already know. We've already conjugated the verb aimer in class, and the verb aimer means to like or to love. And the first person, it's j'aime with your E as your ending. We've dropped the ER, and our stem is AIM. And all you do is just add the ending depending on what your subject is. So if your subject is je, which is I, you'll have an ending in E, and it will be pronounced j'aime. Second person, tu or you, will always be es. Tu aimes. Il, elle, on all have the ending of E, which is the same as the first person. And then nous, you add the ending of O and S, and that will give you aimons. And for vous, you add easy, and that will be pronounced vous aimez. And the plural for boys and girls, that will be ils aiment. Notice that j'aime, il aime, ils aiment, they are all pronounced the same way. So even though this one here has an ENT in the end, it's still pronounced the exact same as j'aime here, that only ends with an E. So again, be very careful with your silent letters. In speech, you may not notice the difference, but it's when you write them that you see that there is a difference. And what makes a difference is the subject. So this here, je, tells you that it's the first person, which is I, and it's different from il ou elle, because then you're talking about a third party, about he or she. Okay? All right. Right now you're going to pause, and you are going to watch the short ER verb clip and follow the directions on your notes. It has you fill in a couple notes here and there, and then do a practice activity. So you're going to pause this lesson here to watch the other video. And then when you're done with that, you come back to slide number 6. Okay, I hope that you completed the little activity on about the ER short clip that I showed you. Now I'm going to provide you a little bit more explanation, something that the video didn't cover. We kind of touched on this in a previous lesson, probably the first one, when I told you about the ways in which you can say, I like to ... And remember when I told you that you can either say, I like chocolate, I like fries, I like a thing, okay? Food, activity, whatever. Or the other way is to say I like and then add a verb. For example, I like to go out. I like to play tennis. I like to play football. So that will be your I like plus your verb. So the same idea is somewhat true in French, where you would have your verb aimer, j'aime, that is conjugated in according to the subject, and then you add an infinitive verb to it. And that verb that you're adding pretty much stays in the infinitive, okay? For example, I like to read. I like, j'aime. To read is the infinitive, and it means lire. Lire means to read. So this is the unconjugated form. It stays the same. What needs to be conjugated is this part right here, j'aime, I like, okay? Céline likes to read. The conjugated part is the verb to like, aimer. It has been conjugated at the third person. And then we added an infinitive, which is to read. And then when you put that in French is Céline aime chanter. The verb aimer has been conjugated in the third person, which only has an E in the end. And the verb chanter stays in the infinitive. Céline aime chanter. Max et Ben, Max should actually say Max and Ben. Max and Ben like to listen to music. Again, Max and Ben like, this is your verb like, which doesn't change unless it's the third person. But let's just say that this here has been conjugated for Max and Ben. Like to listen to music. This is your infinitive right here, to listen, which means, which in French can be translated into écouter. Écouter. And when we translate this here in French, it's Max et Ben aiment écouter de la musique. The only conjugated part is aimer. It has been conjugated as a plural because we have Max and Ben aiment écouter de la musique. Écouter remains the same, it stays in the infinitive. The only part that we're conjugating is aimer. Okay? Alright, now you're going to pause one more time. You're going to pause this lesson and go watch C'est doux, j'aime faire. It's a short video, it doesn't last more than 2 minutes. You're going to follow the directions on your note sheet, complete it, and then come back to this slide. Alright, we are now on slide number 8. We are finished. We have just finished our review of ER verbs, how to express likes and how to add other verbs to the verb to like. And now we're going to learn about irregular plurals. And I think I kind of went over this very briefly when we learned about feminine, masculines, and plural. And what you already know is that in most cases, the plural form is created basically by simply adding an S. Okay, and this is pretty much true for the vast majority of words. All you have to do is add an S, and there goes your plural. But of course, there are exceptions. And here they are. So your exceptions are words that end in E, AU, like for example, tableau, which means board, will need an X in the end to show the plural form. Okay, in the singular it would be just EAU ending, un tableau or le tableau, but for plural you will add an X. And the same thing goes for words that end in EU. And I don't think we've learned this word yet. An example is jeu. Un jeu is a game. So words that end in EU will need an X for the plural. So when you have un jeu, it will only end in EU. But when you have des jeux, it's going to be EUX. And that will be your plural. Okay? So here are your examples again. Le tableau. Les tableaux. Notice that they're pronounced the exact same way. You do not pronounce the X, you do not pronounce the plural, but you pronounce le and les differently. Okay? Never pronounce the X for plurals. Le jeu, les jeux. Les jeux is the plural form of le jeu. And then, oops, there. Then you also have words that end in AL. And those are also your exception verbs, not verbs, exception words that instead of taking an S, they will change into AUX. There aren't many words like that, but there are a couple common ones that you'll probably see here and there. So it's probably good to know them now. One very common example is animal. L'animal. Animal is an animal. This here is in the single form. In the plural, as you can see, the L was dropped and then you added a U and an X. So it's l'animal singular, les animaux plural. Notice that I made a liaison here between the S and the A, and it sounds like a Z. Les animaux, les animaux. In this chapter, I believe that we've learned about this word here, le journal, which means newspaper. This here is in the singular form. In the plural form, again, the rule is to change AL into AUX. Le journal, singular, les journaux, plural. And then you have one more here, le cheval, which means horse. Le cheval is a horse. Plural form, again, it changes from AL into AUX ending. Le cheval, les chevaux. Okay? Make sure that you fill in all of your blanks. And when you're done, you can move on to the practice exercise. À ton tour. À ton tour. Add the appropriate ending to each noun. So you're going to pay close attention to certain things that will give you a clue, like say the articles. The articles here will pretty much indicate whether we're talking about a singular or plural. And depending on that, it will tell you how to make your endings. So look at your articles and then put the appropriate endings to each of these nouns. And when you have done that, you are done pretty much. All you have to do is review this, the 2.3, 2.2, 2.1, because on Tuesday we will have a quiz. Until then, I wish you a great weekend, and I will see you all on Tuesday. Au revoir, à mardi.